the video here, we would say, roadblocks and interference, a search for higher levels of potential. And roadblocks and interference, and we're going to learn from Tim Galway here, are actually when Galway does his work in the 70s, this is the start of seeing sports psychology effectively as the diminishing of interference. That performance, in large part, is dictated not by outer external influences, how well I hit the ball, but actually internal influences, things like interference, the fact that your conscious mind is disrupting your subconscious mind, all of those kind of pieces. For the first time now, we had a way of describing what, to be fair, Percy Boomer in 1904 and Bobby Jones in 1911 and so on and so forth. This is not something that was new, but no one had context with which to talk about it. Everyone was suggesting that, it's the 4.5 inches between the ears that matters in the game and so on. And these are hundreds of year old quotes that knew that we had an inner game that was relevant, but no one was willing to kind of get into the lab and study it until Tim Galway came about. And Tim effectively, for a starting point in his inner game work, distinguishes between the inner and the outer game. So the inner game takes place in our mind. It's played against obstacles like fear and self-doubt and focus and self-belief systems that are limiting and so on. And meanwhile, we're also competing in an outer game, which is played on the external arena. We're overcoming external obstacles. We're running a rubber ball along grass, trying to get it into a hole. We're trying to avoid bunkers and other interferences in that way. But we're not speaking today of the outer interferences and the obstacles, which are, of course, common, trees and water hazards and bunkers and so on, where those would be more metaphors for what's going on inside our mind. And obviously the nature of the quantum mindset, a liftoff point, a takeoff moment is the idea of recognizing that, furthermore, for the next 10 weeks, we're going to be in the inner game perpetually. And so it's important today that we could have take stock of sort of what that looks like and how we can kind of categorize that and what kind of language we could build about it. And so the inner game, by definition, in the inner game, the individual uses non-judgmental observations with the purpose of being accurate about their observations. If the observations are accurate, this is a big moment for Tim Galway and many of his followers, the person's body will adjust and correct automatically to achieve the best performance. The theory for them is that we are perfect learners if we can get self-one out of the way. There is no need for conscious control, no need for judgment, and no need for direction giving, which does change the nature of a coach and a teacher and a learner, and is certainly, at the very least, a very interesting talking point, which we will break off into our breakout groups here shortly. One of the central pieces, though, and I need to make mention to this, and I'll put the sort of the legal image up there. One of the central pieces, this is going to come up a lot in all the different angles that we're going to be studying here with mental game, is the idea that the first launching point for deeper, better learning is to eliminate judgment. Whatever you can do to get into a space that doesn't have this voice in your head wondering whether you're doing it right, wondering whether the guy beside you thinks you're doing it right, wondering whether or not that result is going to give you esteem and trophies and extrinsic pleasures. The sooner we can eliminate that judgment layer, which you could argue is self-one personified, the sooner you're going to be able to access your natural development. And in Galway's beautiful language, he would say, this is an action that unlocks a process of natural development, which is as surprising as it is beautiful. Because trust me, I know as I say these very words, skepticism sits on the other end of this Zoom call. I know for many of us, we will listen to the wisdom of Tim Galway and say, but that doesn't work for me. I can't possibly stand up on the tee and just let go of controlling my elbow and knee and foot and pressure and making sure I inhale and all of these kind of things. I need those crutches because, as you know, in society, self-one has gotten us very far. Self-one is very, very relevant in the business world, for instance, very relevant for getting us to get the right shoes on and to match our clothing and all of these kind of things, of course. And so we do conform in society through the use of self-one. But the argument will be that do we have a better access to athletics through self-two?